Welcome to Helping Hands with your hosts, John Neiman and Judy Ritchie.
Hello and welcome to Helping Hands. This is our opportunity to let you in the community know how you can lend a helping hand to an agency or program in need. I'm Judy Ritchie.
And I'm John Neiman with Aurora Medical Center, and welcome to our July edition of Helping Hands. We're so glad that you could tune in and join us. I love the month of July. It's just things are growing. The patriotism is there, the red, white, and blue, and
your anniversary and my birthday.
We
celebrate all month.
Yeah, there we go. The parade is a great time for me to get candy. Yeah, all of that good stuff. Where can you see us? Where can you hear us? We're on CATV2. You can listen to us on 101.9 FM. Also, I encourage you to go to the website, oshkoshmedia.org. You can see our schedule for Helping Hands during the week, and you also can see the schedule for all of the other wonderful shows on Oshkosh Media Life TV. Judy, would you like to introduce our wonderful guests for the show?
I would, and they're representing Hub, which is not a piece of the car. And it's Karen Beefus, who is the project manager, and Jim Senderhoff, who is a Hub volunteer coach. So, impressive titles. So, and Karen, you want to start out? What is
Karen,
Hub?
what is the Hub?
That's a great question. The Hub is a collaboration of 26 agencies here in the Oshkosh community who are working to help families reach economic stability. So our goal is to help people get ahead and stay ahead financially.
How did they come up with, is the Hub is because you're joining all of them together? Is that where the word comes from, or?
Yes, and with our coaches are kind of the hub of a person's case.
Okay.
So for instance, the way that it is currently, or was, a person seeking services would have to go to each individual agency. To go to, the food pantry, if they needed food, they would have to go to the food pantry. If they needed budget help, they would go to FISC. But if they're working with a Hub coach, that Hub coach is the connector, so they don't have to worry about going to a agency and being ineligible or hitting the wrong door. That coach is going to know that when they're making that connection for that person, they're already eligible, and the person they're connecting them to knows why they're coming in to see them.
So it stops all of those hoops that you have to go through. I mean, we get that a lot too when there's a patient or someone that's in need, and we'll give them places to go, and then they find out you're not eligible and all of this. This is a so much better system than to have.
Very streamlined, and it bundles the services.
Very cool.
The Annie Casey Foundation found that 66% of people were more successful when you bundled 2 or more services together. So by working with one person and being able to look at the barriers they're facing and putting together a plan to overcome those barriers, our community people will be much more successful in obtaining that economic stability.
So that's just really parallels what we're hearing from, well, like with United Way, it was always not duplicating services.
Correct.
And using 211 as sort of a one-stop information of...
I like saying the Hub is 211 on steroids, because when you call 211, they're going to give you a list of agencies that could help you, but you need to call those individually and find out if they can. Whereas if you're going to the Hub, your coach will already know if that agency can help you. So it eliminates all of that legwork you may have to do in going down that list.
Well, in this day and age too, when things happen in someone's life, whether it's losing a job or a house fire or anything like that, you need the information and the correct information as soon as possible. Instead of telling that person who's traumatized already, call this place and call that place. So this is excellent.
The Hub tries to focus on 3 different audiences. The first one is those unengaged. So you have the single mom who's working 1.5 jobs and has 3 kids, and they're running here and running there, and they don't have time to find out what is available for them to overcome whatever barrier may be in their way. Say they need better housing. The other one is those who have gone to the wrong door, because being poor is hard work. Asking for help can be even harder.
Yeah.
So if they've went somewhere and they've, bared their soul and to only learn they're not eligible, they may just, they hunker down and they figure out, we'll just figure out how to do it on our own. And then the third one are those people who may have a case manager at a certain agency, but the hub doesn't have the limitations that many of the agencies have. We're not time constrained. So where some agencies, just by their mission and their funding, they can only work within certain parameters. And I'll use the ADRC for example. Typically their case managers have a 90-day window to work with a person. Well, that person may need longer than 90 days to overcome their barriers. And fortunately, we have hub coaches who they don't have that time limit. They might work with that person for 30 days and that person may say, hey, good, I'm ready, thank you for your help. But then you may have those others who have goals that they want to achieve that might take 2 or 3 years, and they have that long-term relationship with a person to help them continue down that path.
So Jim's sitting here in his wonderful blue shirt.
Isn't that nice?
You're a volunteer
Yes.
and a hub coach. So what does that mean?
That means that, and I'm a hub coach in training. I've been 2 months, but it means that I will have a client base. I've sat with some of the clients. I have somebody that's training me, but it won't be long. But that's what that means, is you work with a client, you get them, you get their confidence, and then figure out what their priorities and needs are, and then utilize the hub to get them referred to something else if in your area. And I'm working in AdvoCap right now, one of the hub ones.
Oh, okay. So how did you find out about hub and about this position?
What I found out is I read an article in the newspaper, and it said what they were doing. It sounded very interesting. They had Karen's email address in there if you'd like more information, and I decided I would, and I emailed her, and she said, well, it's really good, you're timely, because tomorrow we're going to have some training.
Literally.
That's the way to get them.
Yeah, and so if you're available, come and do that. And then they had various agencies explaining just what they did and that, and then from that, Karen asked me if I was interested, and if I did, if there was one special agency. And I chose AdvoCap because I've had experience with them as a landlord, and so that's get me to where I am now.
Boy, to have that interest and just snap it up right away, that's the way.
Take advantage when they're hot,
that's
right?
That's the way to go.
And he's so used to having to really jump to it, because we have this mutual person that we volunteered for over the years. You got phone calls late in the evening or whatever. I think it's another Judy. And so I've worked with Jim, not as closely as you are, but with the other organization. And the passion that he has when he gets involved with something is something to behold. I mean, he is there, and he
Well, I
seems to find
consider
a little
ourselves
extra to go
lucky,
along,
yes.
with what he's already learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Judy.
Been around you long enough.
Right,
Yes.
right.
There's no typical person that you're working with, but kind of give an example of a family that has really gained some successes already.
Would you like to field that, or would you like me to?
I've seen some clients that are going through it right now that are achieving success by getting some financial things in order, setting priorities, getting them doing some budgeting, and then working. The person is working now but wants to better themselves, and working with them to try to get them to job service to do some things to find something that would be maybe more suited, that's something they would like, and help her financially more. So those are two examples that I can think of.
So how does someone know to go to Hub? How do you get referral? Do they get referred? Or how do they know that this is out there?
There's a few different ways. They can self-refer. And there's a link on our website, huboshkosh.org, get a coach, and you fill out a referral form.
Okay.
They can call directly to AdvoCap or Salvation Army and ask to speak with a hub coach, or they could be referred. And so we have, as I said, we have those 26 partners, but we
Okay.
also have partners in the faith community and other agencies that are aware of Hub. So if they're meeting with them and they're identified that they could benefit from seeing a
Okay.
Hub coach, they can be referred. And then once that referral is received, because they do choose which site they'd prefer to go to.
Oh,
Could be
okay.
logistics, it could be because they're familiar with the agency. So they choose what agency they'd like to go to meet a coach at, and then that coach reaches out to set that initial appointment.
Oh, okay. So it's not necessarily everything is coming from that agency. That's just the closest place for them to go to, and then you supplying them with the information or what they need.
With the
Oh,
connections.
okay, that's really cool.
Yes, because Hub's not, oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Hub's not emergency assistance. It's about creating a plan to reach
Yes.
sustainability.
What surprised me, because I didn't have an idea of what this would be, but how many phone calls come in every day that the people that are working with that field and sometimes and try to make an appointment, or they say, you know, this is where you should be, give me your information, I'll write a referral, you give this, here's where you call, might be Salvation Army, might be something else, and they'll have information on you, if it's okay with you that I do that.
Oh, okay. So where are you located then? Where's your hub office?
Well, it is a collaboration, so we're not a 501c3.
Okay.
So I float.
You do?
So I'll camp out at United Way offices.
Oh.
Could find me at New Moon. I work from home. But the coaching sites are where the action is.
Okay.
And so we have 3 coaching sites. AdvoCap and Salvation Army are the ones that are open for referrals right now. Oshkosh Area Community Pantry is also a coaching site, but they have people coming through that they're doing intake for food that they're able to fill. They're actually at capacity for people that are there right now. And then when Day by Day is open, they're what we refer to as a closed site because they have a captured audience.
Yes.
And their case manager will work with them using the hub model to connect them and help them achieve sustainability, whereas you wouldn't refer someone to the warming shelter because only so many people get in the door to begin with.
Right, that makes sense. Okay.
And eventually the day-by-day shelter will be a year-round shelter.
They
Pending
They have a
enough
capital
financial-
campaign going on now too as
yeah,
well.
and if Lorraine has anything to say about it, it will.
Well, she did a wonderful
Yeah.
job on her most recent fundraiser.
Oh,
so.
good. So yeah, then she'll get that dream done, which is cool.
And it's a badly needed resource to the community, so that makes a difference too. And I would venture to say that Jim somehow or other got pulled into something for that because of our mutual friend.
Yes?
She's got a way of doing that. No matter
Yes.
where she goes, she drags us along.
Yeah.
So, with this, on your wish list of needs, besides volunteers, what other things are you looking for?
Well, the hub needs to be sustainable as well. It's a different model. So we are looking for financial help as well. And you know, there's 3 needs that the hub has: volunteer advocates, financial help, as well as referrals. Because it's kind of the cart and the horse. We want to bring those volunteer advocates on, and we know there's a population that we can serve. According to the Alice report that the United Way did, over 50% of the households in the Oshkosh community do not make a self-sustaining wage. And that doesn't mean they're below poverty. It means that it's not a self-sustaining wage once you take into account all of your housing, your utilities, and food, transportation, and so forth. So we know that there's plenty of need out there for our coaches to serve.
So how many coaches do you have then?
Currently, we have 6 volunteers that are in training.
Okay.
And then we also have 6 coaches that are on the agency staff. We have 2 coaches at AdvoCap that work with their PASS program, and then Jordan, who is in the Bridges. So she does the majority of the referrals because she addresses emergency assistance. So she will make referrals to the coaches based on the criteria and if someone is motivated, because that's one of the things too. The people who go into coaching with the hub, they are motivated and driven to get ahead. And that's a defining moment when you finally say, I've had enough. I'm going to do the work that helps me get ahead. And then we have Al Rolfe and Lisa Winkler over at Salvation Army. Now, currently, they're actually both social workers, so they have that service background, and they're very good. But they also have capacity issues. So by building up the volunteer force there, we'll be able to serve more people that are able to get to a central location. And then the food pantry has intake and volunteers out there. So, we're at a total of 12, 6 that are serving right now, and then we're onboarding the rest. But the capacity of adding people is really important. We ask for a commitment of 4 hours a week, and the hub model is each appointment should take 2 hours. So keeping in mind that our volunteers are not social workers, they're not caseworkers, they're people with kind listening ears who are able to make connections. So an hour of that time is spent talking with the people. 30 minutes, would be making those connections, making your case notes and so forth, and then taking a breather. Because those people have, they can tell some stories that will make you, want a margarita. And, so you have to decompress a little bit and debrief with your peers. And then the next one. So if each volunteer has a caseload of 2, if they're doing the minimum 4 hours a week, we need volunteer advocates.
And what are the requirements for your volunteers?
18 years old. And, non-judgmental, kind, problem solvers, the kind of people you would go to if you had a problem, is that who can help you.
And so again, for our TV audience, it's on your screen. For our radio audience, Karen is talking about the kind of volunteers that you need for the hub coaching. You said the problem solvers, the relationship builders. I think it's important when you said, too, non-judgmental, because you're there to be the listening ear.
Correct.
And do you do background checks because of the confidentiality issue?
Yes, we do. Each volunteer becomes a volunteer for the agency they choose to volunteer at. Again, hub's a collaboration, so we don't complete that. So Jim, as a volunteer at Advocap, would have had his background done at Advocap and done the onboarding that Advocap requires of their volunteers. The volunteers at Salvation Army go through their process. Each of the agencies may be a little different, but they do the background checks, because you're right, confidentiality is a big one there.
And that's a true collaboration then, too, which is the big buzzword, collaborating. We're told that we're running out of time, so do you want to give your contact information before we close out this segment of if somebody's interested in becoming a volunteer or for more information on Hub?
Absolutely. You can email me at info@huboshkosh.org, or if you go to huboshkosh.org, there is an application or a contact us form. Just fill those out, and I will get them and get back to you as soon as possible.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you, Jim and Karen, being here as our guests for the show. If you need more information, too, you always can contact Judy or myself, and we'll pass it on to Karen and Jim. So thank you very much for being here and telling us a little more about the Hub.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Stay tuned, and we'll be back for our second segment of our July edition of Helping Hands.
It's not a charity, it's more than a charity. It's about helping people we live with. It's about being the type of person that the 6-year-old version of ourselves wanted us to be. It's about community and looking out for one another. It's about money, yes, but it's so much more than money. It's about friendship and common values. It's about opening doors when others are slammed shut. It's about giving kids a place to be kids and growing up knowing they live in a community that cares about them. It's about making sure that everyone gets to see the dentist. because we want to make sure that they have every last tooth in those smiles. Ultimately, that's it. It's about the smiles, old smiles and new smiles. It's about us, all of us, our community living united, because great things happen when we live united. Will you join us?
Hi, and welcome back to our July edition of Helping Hands. First of all, we're very thankful to our sponsors who made this program available so you guys can be watching us and listening to us on the radio. And that would be set design by Harnix on 9th, and also then our monetary sponsor, Aurora Healthcare. So we're very grateful for their support. In this segment, in our second segment, we always like to talk about what's going on in our community or groups, and there are two on the agenda that we're going to talk about. The first one is, we just talked about Hub, which is a cool name. Now we're going to talk about Propel, and it's not the drink.
That's right.
It's not the sports drink. But Propel is a young professionals group that is from Oshkosh, Winnebago County, and they get together to volunteer, to support the community, for fellowship, for networking, for things like that. And the reason I wanted to talk about Propel is they had Young Professionals Week was just about a month ago, and Propel was doing something during that week every day.
There was a different event every day.
And they reached out to me at Aurora and said, is there anything we can do for you? And I talked again about, you know, all it takes to become a volunteer. And then I thought, well, they can come in as a group and they can make cards and tray favors. And so Propel came in as one of their activities, and they made Mother's Day cards. And they had the best time. They were a wonderful group of young people.
They start laughing, the joking back and forth, some of the sarcasm sometimes, as far as skill levels.
And especially with that group, because we're talking about people in their 20s and 30s, the competitive.
Yes.
And the cards they made were wonderful, and we put them on our patients' food trays for Mother's Day and a couple days after, and they loved them. Well, Propel was so thrilled about what they did together as a group that they will be coming back to Aurora on a bi-monthly schedule to do the same thing for us, to have that group then that could be making Father's Day cards and thinking of you and other things. And I'm just thinking, it shows you that if you give someone a really good experience and something meaningful, they will come back.
They will come back. And I would imagine that you probably had some snacks there also, which is another incentive.
Yes, food always helps.
It does.
We know that. And I just wanted to say hats off to Propel, because it's good to have these service groups. And they're a service group, but they also like the networking and going out and learning things. They visit the community, certain things. I know that they were at House of Flowers learning to put together certain centerpieces and things. So it's something that really stimulates them. But we really do appreciate the group Propel for what you've done for us. And we're looking forward to all the tray favors that you'll be making for our patients at Aurora.
And it's important to note, these are the people who are going to be our leaders. And so we need to give them good experiences. We need to include them in as much as we can in the community.
Now, Judy, what do you have in your lap?
I don't know. It's something that I was working on at home. I think it kind of goes along with July.
Yes.
And it goes along with one of the groups that we both have worked with for a number of years. This happens to be a quilt that is meant for a veteran. And you notice it's the red, white, and blue, or shades of, and hearts and stars with the bow ties.
And this is so fitting, not only because we're talking about the 4th of July and patriotism, but there's a group in town, too, that I had a very unique experience with, and that's the Wisconsin Warmers.
Yes.
They are out of the senior center, and they make wonderful, wonderful quilts for hospital patients and things like that. When I was there the last time at the senior center picking up some quilts, she said to me, do you have any veterans in the hospital? And I said, well, we always can check and we know if we do. And she gave me this stack of quilts made especially for the veterans. Some of the quilts were special because they were made for the branch, whether it was the Navy, the Marines, etc. But the unique thing was I told her that the next day I was going to Milwaukee where hospice was presenting a program that they already do with the veterans, where any hospice patient that served and is a veteran, they have a special pin ceremony that they give the veterans a pin and a proclamation, and then they give them their very own quilt. And I thought that was really neat of the volunteer from the Wisconsin Warmers to reach out to us like that. And then I gave away all the quilts, and they're in good homes right now. But what a unique thing to do for our veterans who deserve it.
And that's true. There are a lot of groups out there. I know Becky out at Quilt Essentials does a whole lot in that particular direction. One of the groups that I quilt with does, and it happens to be in North Fond du Lac rather than here, they do, for Veterans Day, they present quilts to the veterans in that area. I know that with a number of individuals, through hospice and other, they've had that quilt and it's been buried with them when they pass away.
Yep.
Because it has such special meaning.
It does, and so I really want to spotlight those programs out there, like hospice, which is doing something which has guidelines and is nationally recognized. They showed the videos too of how much it meant to the family to have their loved one, their father, presented with that quilt and that proclamation. And as you said, after he passed away, it's either handed down to the family members or it's buried with him. And so I also want to spotlight the groups that we have in town that do make all of these wonderful quilts for our people.
And these are not just for veterans. They do a lot for, like with Christine Ann and a number of different organizations. They also do, and you and I have used them for years with our programs, they do the Christmas stockings using all the scraps and things. So one of the things, and I know that I have contributed carloads of fabric, but it's always got to be 100% quality cotton, 100% cotton. And they can use that. They can use money to buy additional supplies. If you enjoy sewing, going over there and spending an hour or two on a Thursday is a really great opportunity.
Great socializing, great fellowship. And like we said, fabric does cost money, especially if you're doing something specific for patriotic or for branches of the armed services. So once again, contact Judy or myself if you're interested in learning more about this. Our contact information is at the end of the screen. We're thankful that you could be here for our July program of Helping Hands. I'm John Neiman with Aurora Medical Center.
And Judy Ritchie is Community Advocate.